I guess this is one of those, what is it? This came out of a pattern shop, best I can tell, and they didn't know exactly the use of it, but I've kind of figured out some of it. It's got some chatter marks here on it where they've been sawing on stuff or trying to file something, but it's pretty neat. This thumb screw up here at the top, this wing nut at the top connects to like a 3/8 bolt, which goes down into the bottom here, and to allow this thing to slide they had put a slot in the middle of the nut so that you could tighten this up anywhere back through here. It's pretty neat. To me, like I said, it looks like something that would be used to file or to cut a form, a shape, or something like that. It possibly was mounted to a bench here so that it could rotate, but I don't know that for a fact. And then when you look at the back of it, you'll notice that there is paint marks where it was mounted to a box or something, and this part was painted whereas this wasn't. So it was mounted to a corner of something at one time. But it's got plywood, so it's not too terribly old, I don't guess. The rest of the wood looks, fairly solid, doesn't look like plywood. The top again looks like a solid piece of wood. But what I've ended up using it for is I put it in my vise, clamp this, so that I can hold things that are very thin if I'm going to be filing or cutting or whatever. Like I'm making a radius gauge here. I've got some cutters that are 2.5 inches in diameter, 4 inches in diameter, and 5 inches in diameter, and I want to see what kind of radius so that I can hold that up to the piece and see what kind of radius those will turn. So in order, I mark these out with dividers. I've got a line there, and I've rough cut it with some cutters, and then I need to file it down to my line so I can stick this under this guy, bring it out to the edge, and then clamp it down, and then put it in my vise, and then I can file these and get the radius that I need. So it's a pretty neat little device. This wire here just amazes me. It's one of those things that you look at and go, wow, that's pretty neat there, that they just sliced the head of the bolt so that it would fit in that wire, made the wire, screwed it to the bottom so that you can slide the top piece anywhere and clamp it. So again, this is something from I guess a pattern shop. I know it's from a pattern shop where they would make patterns, and they could hold stuff, looks like up to about 1/2 inch to 3/4 thick under the lip of this because of the size of how far the wing nut will come up. So they can hold some pretty heavy stuff under there if they want to for whatever they're doing. But anyway, that's what I've got here, and I'm using it to help make some radius gauges here so I can see how my cutters will cut on that. Well, this like I said, came from a pattern shop. This was inspired by my grandfather's tools. My grandfather had this set of Lufkin radius gauges, but of course it only goes up to 1/2 inch. So I thought, well, I'll make one that'll do that. My grandfather was a machinist way back when, back in the 30s, earlier. So anyway, I call this a pattern clamp, and we'll get back to making the radius gauges. Remember, if you aren't learning, you aren't having fun.